Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming today. Greatly appreciate it. This is part of our leadership series. My name is Michael Chait. I'm the president of the Greater Atlantic City Chamber. Thrilled to have you all here today. Stockton is an amazing host venue. They do tremendous work for us. They're a great partner and really rejuvenating Atlantic City, as you can see from their new dorms across the street that are having their ribbon cutting coming up in early May. So these are exciting times. Now, that's not to say we don't have challenges here in Atlantic City. We certainly do. But I think what you'll hear from our panelists today about their commitment in Atlantic City, their belief in Atlantic City, and how solution-oriented they are. I've had the privilege to sit in a number of meetings with them where we talk about clean and safe initiatives, where we talk about economic development and diversification, where we talk about community service programs and working with, community development corporations in the city. And, we don't always agree on things, but at the same time, that spirit of collaboration and that investment of time and resources into the community will only advance us forward, because we will, and part of the discussion, you'll hear some of the challenges we're facing. But I can tell you right now, and sitting in the meetings with the gentleman to my left, it is a very impressive group that is committed to Atlantic City. So first, I want to thank our sponsors for today. I mentioned Stockton University, their School of Business program, Atlantic Care, Atlantic City Electric, Town Square Media, Horizon Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Their sponsorships and commitment to the Chamber and to our communities, we cannot accomplish what we do without you as members and them as sponsorships. We do not get government funding. All of our funding is raised through our membership and our sponsorship dues. That pays for the work that we do, the advocacy, the collaboration, the information. We only can do this with your support, so we greatly appreciate it. Our panelists today, I'm going to start with Mark Giantonio. He's president and CEO of Resorts Casino Hotel. Mark is also the president of the Casino Association of New Jersey. Mike Sampson, general manager at Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. Mark, I just had dinner there the other night. It was awesome. Michael Monty, general manager at Bally's Atlantic City. And Greg Klein is the Senior Vice President and General Manager at Harrah's Atlantic City. Our moderator today is my dear friend David Danzis. David and I got to work together when I was at the Press of Atlantic City. He moderated this panel last year, does a tremendous job, very, very passionate about Atlantic City, believes in Atlantic City, truly loves this town. So I couldn't have asked for a better moderator today. But I'm going to turn the program over to David. Thank you, David, and thank you, panelists, for joining us today.
Thanks, Mike. I do just want to go ahead and thank the Chamber for hosting this event, and obviously Stockton for having us. This is one of my favorite events of the year. It's one of the few times where we get to gather and you get a collection of talent like this, and they get to talk to you about the issues that this community is facing at large. So not only is it a great event, but I also think it's really important for all of us to hear firsthand from these guys about what they're doing and what their thoughts are about what's happening in our city that we all love. So with that in mind, I'm going to jump right into it. We're not going to beat around the bush a whole lot here. What I'd like to do is have more of a dialogue between the five of us. I don't want to just sit here and rattle off questions to you guys. I'd like you to kind of feed off of each other and just respond to each other a little bit if you can. And I will be guided by the questions, but obviously I'd like you guys to take the reins on the conversation here. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the recovery of Atlantic City. There's several schools of thought about what's happening in Atlantic City. Some believe that the city has completely rebounded from the COVID-19 pandemic, and others live in a little more what I'd like to call reality, which is we still see that there are metrics going on in the gaming industry that have not fully recovered. And I'm going to let these guys talk about that a little bit. And Mark, I'm going to let you start. Where are we in terms of Atlantic City's recovery?
Thanks, David, and good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Mike, thank you for hosting this. Your work at the Chamber and the members are really set a tone for the direction the city's going in, and it's been really positive. And I think our collaboration with the casinos and your entity has been really a force for a lot of topics. I'd be dishonest if I said that we are fully recovered from the pandemic levels. There's a lot of metrics out there that are public, whether it's cars into Atlantic City down 2.6 million about 15% since pre-pandemic. Air service down 15%. Buses down 77%. Bus passengers, huge number, 750,000 passengers. From just a casino-related profitability and revenues, all but 3 casinos are down. So when you look at the two new properties have during that time have been growing into their facilities. So we're not where we used to be for sure, and that doesn't mean it's all dire. The pandemic was one thing, and now this macroeconomy, inflation, and all these other things have really taken hold. So we have some work to do, and I can only say, working with my colleagues, we've never been more joined in our efforts to kind of move the city forward. We all have invested heavily. The properties have invested over $1 billion over the last some years, and the reality of it is we're well positioned. So I think we have work to do to move the needle forward a little bit.
Mike, same question to you. I mean, as one of those properties that Mark had mentioned, one of the 3 that is doing better, what's your view on where the recovery is in Atlantic City?
Well, I think if you look purely at the numbers, the brick and mortar numbers, which in 2022 were essentially flat, I would say, kudos to the industry for everything they did to come back from the pandemic. And, that was an incredibly dark time in Atlantic City to have to close buildings for almost 4 months. So I applaud the industry and everything it has done to get ready to provide the safe messaging that allowed people to feel good about coming back to Atlantic City. But, we're essentially flat right now, 3 years later, and we're in a market with a much higher cost structure. And to Mark's point, the macroeconomy, we started to see a slowdown in the business from roughly May or June of last year. At the same time, we started to see much higher cost structure in our business too. So those 2 things aren't really great as an equation, right? The fourth quarter numbers came out. It's not the revenues so much that are the issue, but revenues are fairly flat, but the costs are much higher. So,
Monty, I'll go to you. And we see that the gaming industry nationwide is actually doing very well, right? Commercial gaming set a record in 2022. We see destinations like Vegas, billion-dollar revenue months. Pennsylvania last month just set a record. Why are we not seeing the same recovery here in Atlantic City?
So there's a couple factors. I think, we're a destination city fundamentally. So we're going to have the business in the summer. We're going to have the business on the weekends. In the shoulder season and into the winter, you're going to have, historically, you have a convention business, a robust entertainment business, and that seems to be one of the trailing, recovering business lines, where you have, in a B2B setting, you have businesses who they went from a regular work environment to COVID to a hybrid environment to maybe a remote environment. So they're not having the robust conventions and get-togethers that they used to, and those book out a year in advance. So that's kind of a lagging indicator of recovery. So that I think that business line is something that we have to look forward to. Then as it applies to COVID, we bought Bally's in the midst of COVID. We closed on that property in November of 2020, and one thing that we've had to navigate with the employees is, the labor supply was not there, has not fully recovered. So part of that is part of our recovery is nested in that supply of labor, which I think continues to improve, but is not 100% back yet.
Just as a point of clarification, all 4 of you need employees at your properties, right? All of you have openings, I would guess, probably in the hundreds for most of your properties. Is that correct?
Yes. Correct. We just had a big job fair last week. We picked up a lot of employees, but yeah, we're still in need for seasonal demands.
On that note, I know some folks from the Casino Control Commission are here today. I know they're having a job fair coming up for veterans. If you guys want some more information on that, please see that back table in the corner right there. The great folks at the commission will get you all the information you need there. But Greg, I'm going to jump to you on this one. What would be considered a full recovery? When can we say Atlantic City has recovered from COVID? What would that look like?
Well, obviously, we need to see top-line revenue growth, for one thing. And for me, I can tell you at Harrah's, where for us, we really rely on those convention business, as Monty said, to drive us midweek. And what we're seeing is corporate business conventions are not back yet. And what we've heard about is, like from talking to one major Wall Street company that always did a big event with us, was that if they're telling their employees that they can work remotely from home, how can you tell them they have to attend a conference at Harrah's Atlantic City? So until they're all back in work full time, we're not going to fully see that. And for me, that's a big part of our business. It provides a boost to us midweek, and that's how we quite honestly make a lot of money off of that. And looking at our forward-looking calendar, it's really looking more like the 24-25 event from when we're starting to see those corporate conventions coming back. It's not 23.
All right. I want to switch gears a little bit and want to talk about one of the positives that has been happening here in Atlantic City, even during COVID, predating COVID, and that's reinvestment in the city. These gentlemen up here, every one of the companies that they represent has reinvested millions of dollars into their properties and into this city. Monty, I want to start with you, since you guys, like you mentioned, you did buy Bally's in the middle of COVID and pumped millions of dollars into that property. What has been the impact of that reinvestment into Bally's Atlantic City?
The reinvestment of our capital has been the foundation of our growth. I have this joke, people say, I haven't been to Bally's in 10 years. I said, well, if you were there 2 years ago, it looked the same. We put $100 million into the property. We have new restaurants. We have new hotel rooms. And we have a new sense of arrival with this beautiful carousel bar. And all those things are part of what makes the customers choose your property over the 8 other competitors in the market. Hotel product in particular in this market is very competitive. I can't think of another town that has as many recently renovated hotel rooms, maybe Las Vegas, but we have a very competitive hotel product in town. And so that is the other part of it is as we invest and our neighbors invest, as Caesars invests next door, as Hard Rock invests up the boardwalk and resorts, it grows the entire market. So we feed off each other's investment.
Greg, I want to jump to you. Caesars Entertainment, obviously they operate 3 casinos here in town. There's a big number attached to their reinvestment capital over the last few years, $400 million, and I feel like every time
430.
I was just going to say, every time I talk to somebody from Caesars, that number keeps going up, which is a good thing, right? But what other kinds of investment is needed, maybe at the property level or even larger than that outside of the properties, to keep Atlantic City as a premier destination? What other kinds of reinvestment is needed?
I mean, definitely more things that, like from an entertainment perspective, we're developing at Caesars The Hook, which is a show from Spiegelworld, which is Absinthe in Caesars Palace in Las Vegas, if any of you have seen it. If you have, it's going to be a little more tamer than the version that's out in Vegas. But that show's coming here. That's going to be our first full-time residency, so it's going to be a year-round show. I mean, Hard Rock has a phenomenal entertainment calendar, which they bring great A-list entertainers here to the city, which draws in people. I think more investment in that. Reasons to come here beyond just a slot machine and a table, because you can get that close to wherever you live now. So to me, those would be big things. And I'm biased towards the convention space. So anything that helps bring in the large groups just helps us citywide.
Mike, what do you think about that? What other kinds of reinvestment is needed? There's been a lot of reinvestment at the north end of the boardwalk where both you and Mark are located. What else do we need to see down there?
Well, I think it's continued reinvestment, right? So it's only 5 short years. We're going to have our anniversary this June. So we're only 5 years old, but that was a $550 million investment. Thanks to the Seminole Tribe of Florida, to Michael and Joe Gingoli, Jack Morris for having the vision to put that money into this city, because I do believe, pre-pandemic, that was vital to Atlantic City starting to re-elevate itself after going through some pretty tough times prior to that, right? When 4 or 5 casinos closed down. So, but it's got to be continued and sustained effort, and it's not just about what goes on in the building. It's about how we market the city as a whole. It's about how we interact with each other to make this city thought of as clean and safe. So at Hard Rock, we invest a lot of our time in investing in the community. I think that those efforts, helping the local community, having a real commitment for our team members, I think helps to elevate our position. I think we all need to do that. I think we probably, I would say, Mark and I attend clean and safe meetings every week or bi-weekly, I guess they are. But I've never really seen as much collaboration in the industry as I've seen recently, and I think there's some good forces driving. What we need to do is just really represent ourselves very well.
Mark, I want to lean on you as sort of the senior statesman of the panel up here. From your perspective, that wasn't a shot at your age, I promise. From your perspective, I mean, the reinvestment that you've seen over a short period of time and a long period of time, has it had the impact on Atlantic City that I think all of us hope? Or have we sort of fallen short of the goal, the larger goal, which is to continue to make Atlantic City a premier destination?
Yeah, I was listening to my colleagues speak, and I was thinking, back when 4 casinos closed, the demise of the city was predicted, and it was a tough time, in the market. A lot of people lost their jobs and so forth. And when I think about the discussions that my colleagues at work and with our ownership structure, Morris Bailey in particular, had was, we were investing $175 million during that time and up until, recent. And, we see Atlantic City much different. Morris was born in Atlantic City. I was born in Atlantic City. So our vision is that Atlantic City will always be around. There'll be threats, things will come and go, but Atlantic City as a regional seashore destination will always be around. So, our investment has been, very strategic and it wasn't just in the brick and mortar, it was in our employees. We all made this past year the most significant investment in our employees and our team members in history. I mean, and we're so, appreciative of being able to do that. And the fact of the matter is we see, our property, not just, the next quarter, the next year, it's generational for us. So, Resorts is going to celebrate its 45th anniversary Memorial Day weekend, and we take it very serious. It's a very symbolic thing for us. But this building will be around 45 years from now, just because of the way it's operated and the commitment as not only our ownership, but in my colleagues' ownership structures have with this city. And so we'll come and we'll overcome these challenges that we're going to be facing with whether it's New York or whatever.
Well, but that's a great segue into our next topic, and I appreciate that. Thank you for setting me up that way. We are going to talk about New York because, for lack of a better term, I think that's kind of the elephant in the room, right? And rather than just focus on the challenges, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Full disclosure, all 4 of these gentlemen work for companies that have bids in for one of the New York City licenses, right? Mohegan, I believe, is trying for a casino on the east side. Am I correct about that?
That's correct.
Hard Rock is trying to partner with the richest owner in North American sports for a casino next to Citi Field in Queens. Bally's in the Bronx, my favorite New York borough. And Caesars is trying for a Times Square casino. So all 4 of these gentlemen represent companies that are vested in possibly having a New York City casino. So let's start with the possible benefits, right, to Atlantic City. And Greg, I'll start with you since you're immediately to my left. How could a Times Square casino help Atlantic City?
Sure. I mean, for us with Times Square, I think one of the beauties of it is that as we're going to capture play from people who live in that area of New York City, who live in Manhattan, live in Midtown, that you'll play in New York City, but then you're also going to want to come to all the restaurants, the beach, and everything that Atlantic City has to offer. It's a way of introducing, of getting to know them, and then bringing them down here to New Jersey. I think that's clearly a benefit for us if that does happen. If we are lucky enough to receive that gaming license, and we've got our building, we're ready to go. So hopefully it is us. But I think to me that's the benefit from it is that you're discovering new players, and you're going to be able to move them down here to Atlantic City for a long weekend of all of our restaurants and shows and everything here.
Monty, similar goal, similar objective, sort of capture a regional domination, if you will, and be able to have that sort of New York City to AC pipeline? Is that the goal? Is that the objective?
I mean, we're a destination city. We have always been a destination city. I don't think that changes with the construction of New York casinos. I don't think that's changed with the construction of Pennsylvania casinos and casinos throughout the other states that have legalized in the past few decades. So I think, our weekends are, we're max capacity in the hotel rooms. In the summer, we're max capacity in the hotel rooms. I don't think that's going to change. And to Greg's point, you have an opportunity to whoever the winning bids are, they can capture customers that way and transport them down to this region on the weekends in the summer. But you also you can grow the market. It's not a complete zero-sum game. There's an opportunity to grow the market as you familiarize more people with gaming and the different companies and the entertainment offerings we have.
Mike, can you pick up on that a little bit? And how do you grow the market by having a New York City presence?
Yeah, I think we're all going to say very similar things here. I think if you do happen to be one of the lucky ones that receives a license there, I think there's tremendous marketing capabilities from having casinos in basically our best feeder market, right? The New York City and North Jersey areas has traditionally been the best casino markets for Atlantic City. So, obviously there's some downside risk to it too, but I think that we can focus on the fact that we have critical mass here in Atlantic City, right? It's not just one building, two buildings. It's 9 of us, and they're the array of product that we have, both gaming and non-gaming, the restaurants, and luckily we have a beach and a boardwalk here too. So I agree with Michael in that we're always going to be strong on our weekends. Our summer times are going to continue to be strong. We're just going to have to find new and creative ways to market ourselves as a city, particularly in our shoulder seasons and our midweek. And let's face it, we have about 3 or 4 years to get ready for that. So it's a critical time right now to really focus on the marketing of Atlantic City as a destination. And to the earlier points about convention groups, I mean, it's just so important that we continue to elevate our position with groups that are searching for a destination to have their meetings, because that's a tremendous help to Atlantic City on the midweek dates.
Mark, any thoughts on New York City's benefit to Atlantic City?
Well, I think my colleagues hit on most of them. I mean, we have the benefit of Mohegan Sun, having a very large property in Connecticut, in Pocono and Las Vegas, and we cross-market, those properties, their customers to us, and vice versa. And so whoever does get the license in New York will have that benefit clearly. And I certainly agree with Mike that Atlantic City will always be well positioned in the summer months in the warmer climate, weekends, holidays. And we've got to get that convention business going again to the 18, 19 levels. I think that'll help us out. But yeah, I think we touched on all of the benefits.
So the flip side of that is, there's obviously the potential for the New York City market to capture some of the Atlantic City market. And recently a headline was made by Jim Allen, the chairman of Seminole Gaming and CEO of, or do I have that backwards? Excuse me, chairman of Hard Rock International, CEO of Seminole. So Mike, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Jim says 30%. Some folks say he might be underselling it a little bit, worst case scenario. Let's put all the cards on the table. If this goes badly, what are we really talking about? What are we looking at?
Well, I mean, let's face it, it's another risk, right? I mean, it's kind of like when Pennsylvania casinos were coming around. We knew there was major headwinds coming. There's a risk when you add more casinos in a very saturated market, right? And we tend to look at Hard Rock. We tend to look at the property, not just amongst the Atlantic City competitors, but we like to do a little searching around of the Northeast competitors, and it's a pretty saturated market. And I think if you look at the numbers now, not just in Atlantic City but up and down the East Coast, numbers are fairly stagnant right now, right? So adding three more casinos in a very populated marketplace that is a predominant feeder market for Atlantic City, it's going to present challenges. I think that's probably why we're all in the running to try to make sure that we have a stake there, that we can create some database, get to meet some new customers, and then hopefully export them back here to Atlantic City.
We have a runway, right? We have a few years before this actually becomes a reality. Monty, what do we do in that 2, 3, 4-year period until those casinos are up and running? What do we do to make Atlantic City, how do we stand out? How do we differentiate ourselves from that market and continue to move forward?
Yeah, so Atlantic City as a brand has ebbed and flowed historically. I think we're cresting again. I think as reading history, with the onset of air travel, Atlantic City as a vacation resort was done for, and everyone was flying to Florida in the 50s, and then the casinos came in, and then as more states came in, I haven't been in the market that long, but I hear that every decade there's a death knell. To Mark's point, so I'm not doom and gloom in that sense, but we have to continue to evolve and adapt, to be flexible, to meet our customers where they are, what they want, whether it's the ocean, whether it's capital reinvestment, whether it's entertainment, whether it's our restaurants, whatever it is, we just have to continue to find out what drives the customers here and provide that. So I'm still positive on our chances as an industry and the city, despite New York State's legalization of downstate casinos.
Greg, any thoughts?
All the clean and safe initiatives that we're doing right now, and even having the fact that we're sitting here at Stockton University, Atlantic City, all of that is just tremendous. Continuing to do all that with Caesars Entertainment, we're working with Hope One and just doing all these initiatives to just try to make anything that improves the perception of the city would certainly help us. The second thought I had is just infrastructure related, just being able to get here. I'd certainly love to see more flights to Atlantic City Airport. I know it was Sun Airline, one of the airlines announced that they're doing some more flights coming here, so that would be great for us. And also the roads as well, just having good roads to drive on with multiple lanes to get to our casinos.
All right. We're going to switch to our next topic right now, which is one that doesn't necessarily pertain to the land-based gaming industry here in Atlantic City, but is becoming more and more prevalent and an important part of the gaming industry overall. And that's online gaming, or iGaming as it's referred to in the industry, internet gaming. Mark, I'll throw it to you. How can Atlantic City capitalize on the growth of iGaming?
Well, I think we already are. We've all launched with partners or on our own, skins, sites that are doing quite well, both on online casino and sports betting, resorts. We were a very early adopter with PokerStars, now the Flutter Group. And, we have a partnership with DraftKings and Barstools. But we also own and operate 2 of our own skins, resortscasino.com and mohegansun.com. And it puts us out there in a digital space and an online space. And, we attempt to do a lot of cross-marketing between the brick and mortar and the online, whether it's, have the same slot machine on our floor that they have online, or, our sports book is DraftKings. So it was a very meaningful piece of legislation, over 10 years ago, I guess it is. Mm-hmm. And, but, I think the one thing is clear, it's the brick and mortar that sustains the licenses, both online and I just wanted to comment on the previous discussion. I believe in my heart that we are all so well capitalized now that we will handle New York and other threats. I predict we're not going to see a closure here. One of the reasons is because what's taken place in the last year, with the governor and the lieutenant governor's efforts to help transform the clean and safe initiatives with, having the prosecutor Reynolds in place and the sheriff and the chief has come a long way, and I think there'll be much greater things happening in the short term that will help transform Atlantic City to sustain New York and any other threats. So.
An optimistic view, I like it. Yeah. Monty, I want to throw the iGaming question to you. I know Bally's is still kind of getting its online brand off the ground, if you will. But What's the plan there? Because we've heard Chairman Kim talk a lot about becoming an omni-channel brand, right? That's what Bally's is trying to become. Can you explain a little bit about what that is, what that means, and how do you accomplish that?
Yes, so you interact with your customer in different ways, kind of on a continuous basis. If they're in the casino, you're interacting with them traditionally, how we do that on a daily basis. If they're online, if they're at their house, they can interact on their phone. If they're watching a Bally's branded sports network, then they're interacting with the brand that way. There's fundamentally there's online customers, there's retail customers, and there's some in those groups, some of those folks, that's where they will remain. Then in the middle, there's both, and it's creating more value for those customers by bringing them into the fold, where they're able to carry value, carry their points. They're able to interact with technology, with the brand, from their couch, from their casino, from their hotel room, on the slot machine, and so that's omnichannel. It's just omnipresent, omnichannel.
Mike, I'll throw it to you. Hard Rock Digital has made a lot of headway in this market. How has that happened? What's been the strategy?
Yeah. I mean, I would say we're one of the smaller online gaming brands, right? So it's a little different at Hard Rock than it might be, being associated with a DraftKings or one of the bigger skins like that. But, our strategy really revolves around integration between brick and mortars and online gaming, right? How do we marry those two things? And how do we take customers that are playing online and make sure that when they come to Atlantic City, they're coming to Hard Rock? And the biggest way we're going to capitalize on that is in our loyalty program. And Caesars Atlantic City is hopefully soon to launch the Unity Player Program, which will unite all the Hard Rock brands, and not just the casino brands, but the cafes and the non-casino hotels, right? So I think it's pretty interesting to think that you could be on your living room couch playing on Hard Rock online, and then take your points and go to any Hard Rock cafe across the country and use those dollars that you earned online to pay for your meal, or to come to Atlantic City to use those dollars to buy a hotel room or to have a dinner or see a concert. So we're really just trying to marry those two things up and make sure that if you're a player in our online space, that you feel like you're integrated into the Hard Rock loyalty program.
Greg, I purposely wanted to end on you because I know Caesars has made a lot of progress in sort of creating a synergy between the digital experience and the in-person experience. I'm thinking about things like Ivy, the personal concierge service, or recently I was at Tropicana, and you can, right on the slot machine on the floor, you can use your Caesars Sportsbook app and scan a QR code right on the slot machine and then play that slot right on your phone, right? I mean, even as somebody, I just thought that was amazing, right? It just blew my mind that something that simple took so long to happen. But what's the best way to create that synergy between the in-person experience and the digital experience, and how has Caesars been able to have so much progress in that area?
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, Caesars was late to the game, so we made a major investment when we did enter it. You've all seen those JB Smooth commercials and everything. They've eased up a bit, but we made a major investment to get in, and pretty rapidly became one of the bigger operators. What you were saying, though, as far as you're playing in a slot machine, you can scan the QR, that's just going to keep growing. Yeah. I mean, that's at Tropicana now, but it's going to be added to hundreds of new games are coming at all Harrah's, Caesars, and Trop. We're going to be able to do that. So that is a growth thing. I would say, to answer your question, there's two things that I've seen. I mean, I've greeted individuals who we didn't know, but we met online. So they started playing through us online, earned their points, and wanted to come down to Atlantic City. And I'm there to shake their hand when they show up because that's a pretty good guest. So we've had that benefit. The other thing, too, with by being able to go online, as you said, when it's Sunday afternoon, it's time to go home, you continue to play as you're, not if you're behind the wheel, but if you're while you're driving home, and you have that, and then once you get home, so it's allowing us to extend their play, and if it's a boring Tuesday night at home, just pick up your phone.
So what I'm hearing from all of you guys is this is sort of a way to almost kind of be in constant contact with your customers, which is really a change from, once a month mailers with, free slot play or comp rooms. This is a way to really kind of always maintain that brand awareness in your customers in the forefront of their mind. Is that right?
Yeah, I think we probably all agree with that, right? The amount of advertising and really reaching people in the digital space, which, traditionally the casinos were more, snail mail and database marketing and evolving. But just to be able to talk to a different segment of people that may not have been brick and mortar's customers, yeah, I think we would probably all agree with that.
All right. I think we're going to move on to the next topic. And Mark, I'm going to lead off with you. And again, I'm going to lean on you as like I said, our senior statesman here. And I'm going to preface that I feel bad almost asking you this question, because I feel like as long as I've known you, this is probably a question that I've always asked you. And I feel like your answer, you're probably getting tired of answering this question. But what can we do to make AC better? What's our brand right now? What's our identity? How do we improve on the perception of Atlantic City?
In so many ways, the city gets criticized over the years for whatever reason it occurred, that it just didn't transform itself into this beautiful seashore regional gaming destination. And I think we're at a fork in the road where we've done a lot of things over the last year. I think the collaboration with the casinos and the entities, the state and the city, have advanced some of the basic things. Like, I think we're taking care of the homeless better than we ever have. But why should there be homeless? Like, I hear people say, and these are really important people, say, well, there's homeless in every state and every city. Well, but it doesn't have to be in our city. Our city is different, and it's a regional gaming destination on the seashore. So I think that we have to do the things now necessary, the infrastructure improvements, the beautification of Atlantic, Pacific, and the boardwalk, and the thoroughfares have to be inviting so that we can market the city and gain a brand new customer. We're all getting customers that are so loyal to our properties, but they're not loyal to the city. And when that occurs, and I think that's going to occur, I think we've had some great discussions with the governor's office, with the legislature, with everybody, with the CRDA. We've got to see that major investment comes to this city in a big way, and now's the time to do it. When we were investing $175 million at resorts, it was in the middle of foreclosures. There's a time and a place for everything, and I think if we can get some of this basic infrastructure improvements done, a new consumer will come to Atlantic City, feel comfortable about leaving resorts or Hard Rock or Bally's or Harrah's, Caesars, and walking outside. And it's got to start with the residents. I mean, to me, it's absolutely deplorable that the conditions that our residents live in some of these housing projects. It's deplorable. We should be embarrassed by it. We're a very rich city. But I do think there's some momentum to change that. So now's the time. We have like a couple of years, I think, to get some major investment here. And that's when you'll see Atlantic City start to really grow.
Mike, same question. I mean, what do we do to improve the perception of Atlantic City?
Well, I think the image could be better, right? We have a long history here, but there's a lot of people that have been to Atlantic City that don't think it's clean and safe, and probably haven't returned because of that, right? So we need to do better there. There's no question in my mind. I think we are. I think we're trying. I think there's some initiatives going on now. I thank Councilman Shabazz for his clean and safe initiatives, and Mayor Small, and we really thank goodness for Chief Sarkos now, and he's been a tremendous partner. Prosecutor Reynolds has been a tremendous partner. But we have to do better. I mean, I've been driving into the city for 33 years, and there's almost not a day that goes by where I don't see a homeless person on the side of the road asking for money or trying to wash your windows, and whether it's day or evening, and that's just not. It's just not how we want the city to look when somebody comes to Atlantic City for the first time, right? So I agree with Mark's point. We're working tremendously hard with partner agencies in the city and the state to focus on homeless issues, and but that's a big thing, because people don't want to come down and part with their hard-earned money and then walk out the boardwalk and and have the appearance of, safety issues. And unfortunately, when there's people pandering at every door front on the boardwalk, it's a little unsettling to a lot of our guests. So it's something we have to do a little better on. And I do believe there's collaboration now like I haven't seen in quite a long time that'll allow us to make major strides in that area.
Monty, as kind of a little bit of a newbie to Atlantic City, a little over a year now, how did the reality of Atlantic City match up to your expectation and what you thought of the city before you got here? And have you seen it change for the better, and how so?
I've lived a few different places throughout the country and throughout the world, and I would say that a lot of the challenges facing Atlantic City are not unique from any other urban environment. What makes it unique is there's 9 casinos in this city, and I think one of the things we can do daily, weekly, is be cheerleaders for this city. I have 1,500 employees, their family, it's probably 5,000 people who have, we include their family members. All the people they interact with, they can be custodians and ambassadors of this city, of this industry, of this market. I find folks my age, they have a different idea than the older generation has about Atlantic City, because there's great brand resonance, awareness, and brand equity for folks who saw Atlantic City in the 80s and 90s. And it's not an insurmountable task to restore that brand. And there's people who've been married here. There's people who've been engaged here. Countless stories of people who have a positive experience in Atlantic City. And then they have, I heard Atlantic City's this or that. Well, have you been here recently? Have you been down to the Yard on a summer day? Have you gone to the beach bar? Have you stayed in any of the new hotel rooms at any of these properties? Seen a great show at Hard Rock? So I think just, maybe it's naive, maybe it's just being positive, but being advocates for this city, for the people in this room, and for the people that we work with can go a long way.
Greg, you're a little bit insulated from some of the boardwalk challenges right over in the marina, but that doesn't mean that you don't hear a lot of these same issues from your guests. What are you hearing from them? Has the perception changed since you've gotten there, and the reinvestment in the city, the reinvestment in the properties? Are we turning the corner?
Well, certainly the reinvestment in all 9 of the casinos made a difference. Where you do hear about how they're staying in nice rooms, great restaurants. We all have those amenities, and I think that's no question that's led to increased visitation to the market. I think we still have a little ways to go on the perception issue of clean and safe, and I love the measures that we're taking, and that we're happy to support, especially with Caesars and Tropicana. And I think Monty's right. It would be nice to see us tell our story a little better, and because there's so much good that's going on here. What I think of too is I went to Rutgers, and when I was a freshman in '92, I was told do not walk from the College Avenue campus to Douglas Cook at night because it's not safe.
I lived in between that area.
Yeah, and today, 24/7, you can do that walk. It's completely safe. And there you had a big corporate sponsor behind it in Johnson & Johnson. Here we have 9 casinos. You had a university with Rutgers. We're sitting here at Stockton. You had the local and the state behind it. And if we can get all that, the ingredients are here for Atlantic City. And by the way, we have a beach. So if we could put it all together, the ingredients are here.
All right. Well, then let's end on a positive note. Let's say you guys find a magic lamp in the sand on the beach, right? And the genie pops out, and he's going to give you one wish. What's the one change you want to see in Atlantic City by the end of 2023? Monty, I'll start with you.
So in my background, I think fundamental to making a place safe is having proper security. And I think we need more police officers in Atlantic City. I don't think anyone's ever visited Atlantic City and said, there's way too many police officers here. So I think that's a fix. It's tangible. I think everyone on this stage is in agreement about that. You can define it, you can set it, we can do it. Make it simple. That's one thing by 2023 we do.
Mark, what about you, man? 45 years in this market. What's your wish?
Yeah. Mike hit on one, but certainly, look at Bart Blatstein, right? He's going to open up the Island Water Park, his investment there at a non-gaming hotel. We need additional investment here, and I think it's going to have to start with the state. State's going to be the catalyst that gets this going through the city, and we need some investment, whether it's patrol, police officers, or infrastructure investment. But I will tell you, it will reap benefits like the investment did at resorts. When a lot of people thought resorts was dead and gone, we invested, and we took a non-profitable property and made it profitable. If you make the investment now in Atlantic City, the community itself will benefit, and then the city will flourish for decades to come. And it's not an insurmountable amount of money. I mean, it's very doable.
Mike, what do you think? What's your AC Genie granting you?
I'm going to steal one of your lines, Mark, and that is walkable, right? Like, people don't come to Atlantic City and go out the doors and walk either way to go to the next place they want to go to, or walk to a non-casino affiliated restaurant, right? They get back in their cars because they don't feel safe. I'd like to see a day where both, I think the boardwalk, especially in our better seasons, I think there's a fair amount of foot traffic, but I'd like to see a day where people feel safe walking up and down the streets of Atlantic City, and if they want to go to Ocean from our property, I don't have to get in my car. I can walk. I think that would be a big plus for us, and overall beautification of the city as well. I think would lend to that. And from Mark's perspective, Atlantic and Pacific Avenues, if we could really focus on making that a much more beautiful experience, and it doesn't have to be over the top, right? It's cleaning up the streets, paving the streets, it's some landscaping, things like that. But just making those entryways into our city a lot more clean and attractive on the way in, I think would be a big help.
Greg, dream big, man.
Well, all the good answers were taken, but I agree with all three of them. I would say two of the things that just go in a different direction that occurred to me was more flights into Atlantic City Airport. It drives me nuts when people say, well, it's too far from Philly, I can't do a large group there, so I'd love to see that. And I'd love to see Stockton be expanded. Let's go to 20,000 students here, just to make a real campus here. That would be great for everyone, because that's clean and safe.
All right. Chait, can we go to the audience for any questions? Do we have some time?
Yeah, I've got a couple that we collected for you. You get them all up? If anybody has any questions, I'll grab them from you. Just want to take a look at them. We didn't get many submitted in advance. But talking about airlines, one of the questions about JetBlue taking over Spirit Airlines, how do you think that would impact Atlantic City, having a carrier like JetBlue versus Spirit?
But I think it's, we're in discussions with Steve from the SJTA about, utilization at the airport. I mean, Greg just hit on it. We could double, triple, quadruple the flights there. It would be meaningful. So I think anything that would be the catalyst to drive additional traffic into our city, whether it's JetBlue taking over Spirit or another carrier coming in, these carriers have to believe in the city. As an industry, we've invested a lot of money over the years subsidizing carriers that were half-hearted, and we subsidized them, and they weren't the greatest of experiences. That's why we got to make the infrastructure investment now, so that when new carriers come into the city, they're going to be like, wow, it's been transformed.
Yeah, I would concur with a lot of that. I've been involved with initiatives for many years to grow air traffic into Atlantic City. The problem has traditionally been these carriers come in, and they're not looking to create rate disparity between other markets that are more established for them. So, they're coming into these cities that we're subsidizing, and they're charging $500-$600 tickets just so that it's not diverting customers from Philadelphia or Newark or New York City. So traditionally hasn't worked. I mean, Spirit has found a little niche, and I hope that under JetBlue management that can not only continue but sustain itself for, hopefully some future growth.
Anybody else want to add anything, or we put Chait back on the spot for more questions?
No, I've got a good one here, because this is something every industry is dealing with, and I know we've worked with you and your HR folks and through our transportation committee. workforce concerns across all industries. What are some innovative ways that you're using to overcome these concerns and keep the doors open?
So I can speak for Bally's. We have a partnership. I'll tout Stockton because we're here. We partner with Stockton. We did it last summer. We do it this summer as well. We'll take folks. We'll train them. We'll pay for the housing for the summer, so they can stay here on campus for the summer, and I'll pay for it. I've turned that into a lot of folks who are able to sustain their employment on a part-time basis during the fall semester. So that's a partnership that we're in the second year of. It's growing, and I'm proud of it. It checks all the blocks of the community, and it's really good for the student and great for us.
If I could, Mike, what kind of positions are we talking about? Like, what are the students being trained to do?
Our biggest one is dealers.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're training folks on how to be dealers, and they'll work for the summer, and then they'll continue in the school year if they want, whenever they want.
No, that's great. It is a challenge. We have a committee focused on the AC rail line, and after meeting with all of the human resource executives, the casino properties, there's obviously a void in the talent. We're actually, John Hines is in here somewhere, I know. John's back there. He's the chair of our committee. We're meeting with NJ Transit. We met with the mayor of Vineland. We're discussing a pilot program to use NJ Transit to potentially bring employees to Atlantic City, not just for the casino industry, but that was where the biggest gap is. So we're working, they've said it all day about the collaboration and the communication and coming up with innovative ways to solve problems, and this is one of them. But it started out with rail. Can the rail line do this? Completely underutilized service in and out of Atlantic City. And through conversation, they said, what about buses? Let's start simple. So that may be a way to fill the gap. We've got time for one, maybe two other questions. Audience, good question, something we're focused on through board matrix and everything else, and it's a very hot topic. Your DEI, your diversity, equity, inclusion came in. What are your properties doing to focus on this?
So I will start, if that's okay, and our CEO, Jim Allen, and our owners, Seminole Tribe of Indians, have made this an incredible priority in the company, and that's been unrolling in Atlantic City, right? So we have tremendous focus on diversity, equity, inclusion. It's something that's in our DNA, it's in our culture because of how we're located across the world and in different destinations, not only in the States, but across the world. So just constantly focusing on the issues of diversity, equity, inclusion to find the right people, to find the right opportunities for people in advancement and growth. We hired a diversity officer in our Florida properties that actually is a diversity officer their property or for the company as a whole. So just a tremendous amount of focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion at the Hard Rock because it really is part of our DNA.
Yeah, I tell you, at Caesars, they've made, we publicized some of our targets of 50% diversity from management straight on up to the CEO position. So there's some major targets that we're working to achieve. Every team member goes through DEI training. So it's, again, you're saying it's in your DNA. It's the same here at Caesars Entertainment. It's a clear priority for us.
We do all that on the corporate level and on the property level with diverse vendors. I can speak on a personal level. What I love about this industry is there's an opportunity to take folks from non-traditional backgrounds who maybe don't have the completely formal education or they lack a specific skill set, and you can just grow in this industry. So what I do is I just try to meet people where they are in their life or their education level and allow them to grow with the company or grow in the industry, even if they get their foot in the door at my property and get hired by Hard Rock, which happens a lot. But there's countless stories of folks in this room who maybe don't have any education, who have ascended the ladder of the casino industry, or not even ascended the ladder, who have been able to raise their family and provide good health care benefits for their family by working a job in the casino. So it's bringing that to the employees and potential employees for me.
You know, I'd say if you look across the spectrum of all companies, those that handle this topic well, and ESG as well, you know, actually always perform better, you know, for the most part, you know, whether it's in earnings or, you know, employee engagement and so forth. So we at Resorts work very closely with Mohican. We have amongst the highest employee engagement in our enterprise at Resorts, and we're very proud of it. And it really is, when you think about it, it's just decency, you know, treating people with respect that they deserve, and it just goes a long, long way. So I think everybody, you know, hit on it, but these 9 casinos in Atlantic City, you know, besides being well capitalized, they are probably the best well-run from an operating perspective, employee engagement that I've ever seen in you know, over the course of the last few years in the history of the casinos here in Atlantic City. So I think that for all those reasons, there's such a bright future in Atlantic City.
I would agree. Yeah. No, I think I want to. How about a round of applause for our panelists today, and David Danzis, our moderator. So I attended an event the State Chamber put on in Atlantic City earlier this year, and Neil Bradley was one of the guest speakers. He's the Executive Vice President and Chief Policy Officer for the U.S. Chamber. So he's pretty good at what he does. He talked about 3 things to do in order to be successful. And if you listen to what they said, I had to write this down as they were talking because they hit on all of this. You can't manage what you don't measure. I don't think there's an industry in this world that's better at measuring data than the gaming industry. They measure every single thing they do. Protect your advantages. And this goes to all of us. Our advantage is right here in Atlantic City. You know, the amount of revenue that comes into the city, the trickle-down effect for small business development, the opportunity that Atlantic City presents, we have to protect it. The state has to help us. They're 100% right with the collaboration that you're seeing with CRDA, with the Chamber, the casino associations, the police chief, the sheriff, the prosecutor. I've never seen anything like this in my life here. You know, I'm born and raised in Atlantic City. And this collaboration, it is the start. And this doesn't change overnight. It takes time. But the fact that we're all sitting down together and we're pulling in the same direction speaks volumes about the leadership that exists here. And the third thing he said was work on what you can control. And this is probably the hardest part of it, because a lot of what we talked about isn't necessarily in our control. But through the Chamber, through our business partners, through you, you know, we can influence change. We can effect change. It only takes a little bit to go a long way. But if we're all going in the same direction, we're all saying the same thing, we're all being positive, we're all not just here for a therapy session, that we're here for solutions, you can make a big difference. So, I took a lot out of this meeting today and listening to our panelists, but everything they said, I couldn't help but think of what Neil Bradley was saying. Those 3 simple points to focus on is something that we all can contribute to. So greatly appreciate your time here today. Greatly appreciate our panelists. David, as always, wonderful job. These are some upcoming events for the Chamber. We have we're calling it an ABA in short, but we're partnering with all the the small business associations in the county, Margate, Ventnor, Brigantine, Summers Point, and we're doing our networking mixers together. We're collaborating on policy together. We're looking at liquor license laws. Really started earlier this year. It's been tremendous. June 13th, our annual meeting of membership. If you come to one other event this year, that's the one to come to. Member orientation breakfast. We go through our strategic plan. That'll be a good one in July because that's just after our June. Our fiscal year begins June 1. And then, of course, the Atlantic City Air Show. The Atlantic City Air Show does not happen without the collaboration of these casino partners. So $80 million economic impact. It absolutely does not happen without their participation. There is a lot of support that goes into that event. But without the hotel rooms they can provide and the marketing assets they do, it doesn't happen. The event goes away. So thank you for all of your support with the Atlantic City Air Show. I want to thank our sponsors one more time. We have Atlantic City Electric, Atlantic Care, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield, Stockton University, always a great venue to host. And thank you all for coming today. Feel free to reach out and connect with us at any time. We're super accessible. Follow us on social media. But thank you again for coming today. And again, thank you to our panelists and David for having a great event.